Hey everyone, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going to be doing another tier list for DPS. I'm going to be starting off with a melee. You'll be seeing a ranged one in a different video, a healer one in a different video, a tank one in a different video. I did do a previous tier list, but that was some time ago, and there's been a lot of changes. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Again, this is not based off damage numbers. Numbers are being tuned all over the place. It's mostly based on playstyle, and in the past few weeks there have been a lot of changes since my last tier list. So let's go ahead and start with melee. If you say you want to be up there, you want to be in their face, let's go ahead and start. I will start with Shaman, because Enhanced Shaman has seen a little bit of tweaking, but not a whole lot. They've seen things like Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning actually got buffed fairly recently. I'm still putting them up in the S tier. I think as a class, they are so redefined by their new playstyle that it is going to make it, it's going to make it fun. And the only problem will be, will the damage numbers be there? But in general, they have buffed Wind Fury Totem. It went from 10% chance to proc on your friends to now 20%. Melees are going to love having Enhanced Shamans in their group, as long as that's significant. And we don't know if it... People will ask me, is that a significant percentage? Is it a significant buff? Hard to say right now. Sims aren't really out for that. I've checked with the Earthshrine folks. But that's going to be, that's going to be an interesting play, because the totem is where Shaman is. So the other area is in the area of PvP. As you might know, I do a lot of PvP more than PvE. And for an Enhanced Shaman, they need to have some of their PvP talents revamped. But their core abilities, their core talents are very, very fresh and quite fun. And there's a potential for a lot of different builds. The Legendaries for Enhanced Shaman are looking pretty diverse. You have stuff that affects Wind Fury, you have stuff that affects the Maelstrom weapon generation, a lot of different things, and that's what you want to see in a class. Some complexity there with the Legendaries and the Conduits. Conduits for Enhance, again, amping some damage up, which is always good to see, but also could potentially lean you towards a certain build. So that's what I like to see in classes, and I'm sorry I talk so much, but Enhance has me quite excited, especially with their lean into Wind Fury. The next one that I'll just kind of go through the list here, actually, so I won't pick. Frost Death Knight. Frost Death Knight, I'm going to be bumping that up a level since the last time we saw it. Why? Because they can now use two-handed. If you didn't know, in Shadowlands, they can use two-handers. And Blizzard finally leaned into this, and they said, okay, we know that if you're using a two-hander, you don't have two Rune Forges. So because of that, we're going to increase. They added a passive that you can take, that if you have a two-hander, you'll do more damage than if you have just the dual wielding, based on Obliterate, which is the focus for so long. So that is really, really good to see. And in terms of Legendaries, they have certain Legendaries that will cause procs to happen, which could kind of flavor up your rotation. That is one thing I like when you either in the Conduits or in the Legendaries. When you have a spec that has certain things that will pop, like, okay, you do certain things and you get a rhyme proc, or you do certain things and something happens, right? That's the type of rotation augmenting, or like build defining characteristics that I like to see in Legendaries and in the Conduits. The other thing I like to see is just increased damage, because a lot of Conduits for certain classes, like Windwalker, have certain Conduits that are like increased damage by Fist of Fury by 20%. Those are good. Like, of course, like everyone wants more damage, but in reality, those might already be scaled into the tuning of the damage tuning through beta, which they haven't really even touched yet. So that's something we like to see, though, is we like to see some damage. We like to see some fun things, but we also like to see procs or cooldown reduction changes. Those are the types of things that really spice things up, and FDK actually did get some of that. Frost DK, for me, looks to be a little bit more interesting. The fact that you can do different weapons is pretty cool. Now, the next one, if we just keep going along the list, is Feral Druid. Feral Druid's interesting because they're actually their hybrid healing in the beta right now is pretty crazy. So in a PvP standpoint, they actually do a ton of healing. They have certain Legendaries that can flare up the playstyle, like, for example, Apex Predator's Craving, which is when your rip has a 4% chance to make your Ferocious Bite free to cast, and it does max damage. That is pretty cool. So I'm going to put them right around here. The reason I'm doing that is I'm putting in the B lane, because I personally think that some of the things that they included with the Legendaries and Conduits are cool. They flavor things up. The side healing is pretty good. But from a base class, they didn't change a whole lot. And for me, again, this is about what do I think is going to be fun and fresh. And I personally, I don't think they're quite that changed. They do have some things that enhance them, specifically from the Legendaries. But overall, to me, I'm putting them about there. They didn't get many other core changes. Now there is now whispers, well, blue posts, that there will be more things changing, but I have high hopes for what they're going to adjust. Arms Warrior, I'm actually going to be dumping these into the top tier. Arms Warrior actually looks very, very cool. The amount of things that are coming through the legendaries, through like crazy mobility through heroic leaps, which is just kind of a fun thing. We don't know how useful it's going to really be, but it's kind of cool. To the core design changes that they made about having ignore pain, having spell reflection, being able to sword and board switch it up. That is a playstyle and a level of depth that I actually really appreciate. That was something that, from an old warrior standpoint, I used to main warrior back in Wrath, stance dancing, changing weapons. That was all part of the deal, and now that's coming back a little bit, as well as intervene. Intervene is going to be something that's going to be very useful in PvP. Their utility already was kind of up there, but their survivability wasn't. So with ignore pain coming in and being across all the warrior specs, I actually like it quite a bit, as well as some of the legendaries. Some of the legendaries having to do with proccing and certain debuffs on targets, augmenting your gameplay. Because basically, if you use like for example, Mortal Strike has a chance to pop Colossal Smash on the target. That's just amplifying your damage, but it's doing it in a way that isn't just saying Mortal Strike plus 20% damage. You know what I mean? And I like that flavor. You also have things like Slam has a 15% chance to refresh your Mortal Strike. So these are really cool things to me, and that's what we'd like to see. They're going to, even though those abilities, Colossal Smash, Mortal Strike, and such, are not different from last X-Pack, how you're going to use them or how you could potentially create builds is pretty interesting. And ARM's got a lot of core fundamental changes. Like I mentioned, ignore pain, just by that itself, very strong. Shield block, being able to switch weapons around, that is a complexity, like I mentioned, that I really do appreciate in the class, and I'm putting it up at the S tier. In terms of damage, they're crushing it in PvP right now on the beta, but every melee with a solid stun is. So I'm not ranking it because of that. I'm ranking it because I think it's actually going to be quite fun to play. And if you haven't seen videos of people using the 3 heroic leaps to jump around like everywhere, you're missing out, because that's pretty awesome. All right, next on the list is Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogue does have some legendaries that do increase its damage or add another dot or things like that. A lot of that seems to be passive to me. They do have, there's overall rogue legendaries that seem pretty nutty, like increasing your crit chance by 100% coming out of stealth and stuff like that. But to me, the class design has not really shifted too much. And to me, I do not really find this playstyle that much fun. So I'm going to be dropping this down into the C tier. And that's going to be the lowest tier that we're going to have. Personally, to me, it just doesn't seem that fun to me. I personally think that they're not changing enough with Assassination. I actually think it might not be maybe not a missed opportunity, but just proccing bleeds on bleeds to me is kind of like applying dot. It's kind of like Gushing Wounds, right? Gushing Wounds did not make you have more fun in the game, you know what I mean? It increased your damage in an interesting way, but it wasn't necessarily a fun playstyle. And so to me, Assassination Rogue I'm also kind of ranking it here because personally, I think the other rogue specs are really something to talk about, and Assassination to me just doesn't seem that special right now. All right, so on to Fury Warrior. Fury Warrior, I'm going to be putting this into this tier, the B tier, which is kind of on the back half, right? And the reason for that is there was not that many core fundamental changes to the spec overall. They did get Ignore Pain, which is a nice defensive, but between their legendaries, which have some similar things to ARMS, like proccing Siegebreaker and stuff like that, and they also do have Single-Minded Fury now, which is pretty cool. To me, the playstyle is still very much without a Mortal Strike, without some additional kind of flair, I still am having trouble seeing this be a particularly preferred option for PvP. And in PvE, I just see ARMS as kind of just being the superior older brother, you know what I'm saying? But that's kind of where I'm going to put it. The legendaries aren't that impressive. They have some things like the procs, like I mentioned, but overall it's just increasing haste, increasing damage. Now I will say Fury Warrior back in the day in Legion used to be extremely fun. In BFA, even Season 1, you saw them sometimes. But to me, I just personally is not really the playstyle I'm looking for in terms of a Zug Zug, also because of arms getting a lot of utility that Fury had, like Piercing Howl and such, which is now on a cooldown. So that's where I'm going to be putting that. Next up is Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter I'm going to be placing into the C tier, the last tier. And to me, the reason I'm doing this is because they just did... Like, people have said that they've been nerfed significantly into Shadowlands, and I do disagree. They lost a lot of Azerite traits. They lost a lot of haste things that slowed them down. But in general, their class design is exactly the same. They did get Immolation Aura. They did get a Mortal Strike. And they did get... Oh, there was something else they got. They have certain Legendaries that, like, pop Darkness when you go below 30%. To me, Demon Hunter... They need to have they need more richness to their class. Their abilities are individually kind of nutty, but to me, I feel like for some reason it is just not a very satisfying thing to play. I think it's going to be extremely strong. I don't think any of the nerfs to its AoE potential or its lack of leech is going to impact it very much. Maybe its survivability a little bit, but in general, I think it's going to be extremely strong in PvE still, which makes me kind of mixed about it. I wish there was something else that was added to the class design itself that made it feel a little bit better. The Legendaries, again, like I mentioned, some of them are kind of interesting, but when you see a defensive Legendary on a DH, you're kind of thinking to yourself, what? Why? So to me, I personally just wish that this class would be a little bit more rich. And to be honest, the Legendaries effects that it procs are just, they kind of seem like more nutty damage stuff. I wish they would back away from the damage and look at the playstyle a little bit more. Now, next up is Outlaw Rogue. Outlaw Rogue, I had previously put that as the top tier, I remember. And I want to still do that. It's tough for me. I think it's somewhere between the two. And I'm going to put that into the A tier. The reason for that is I think Blizzard has done an incredible job of adding a lot of stuff to this class, this specialization. They changed the roll the dice so that it is now on a cooldown, so you don't have to just spam it digging for buffs. They also changed it so that it has poisons, which actually makes it quite viable in PvP. They also changed it to not have a ranged stun. It has slice and dice now. It now has kidney shot back again. And the Legendaries are actually pretty darn cool. They actually are pretty darn cool. Now that I think about that, I'm going to put them back in the S tier. I'm putting them in it from a fun standpoint. I have to say, I am personally really excited to play Outlaw Rogue. I've been talking about it being my main alt in Shadowlands. Outlaw, to me, does seem like not only will it hopefully just not be a Mythic Plus meme, I think it's going to have a lot more to bring to it. Now, the only issue I see with Outlaw, and particularly with its Legendaries that are pretty freaking cool, first of all, it benefits immediately from the 100% crit strike coming out of Stealth, like every other rogue, which is already pretty cool. But there's actually some pretty cool ones, like when Sinister Concealed Blunderbuss, when Sinister Strike strikes an additional time, there's a 33% chance your next pistol shot will fire 3 times. That's just cool. That's flavorful. Your advantage of taking the ebb and flow of combat causes your Sinister Strike to gradually increase your damage by 30%, and that goes up and down. That's just increased damage. We said we'd like to see some. I like to see some of that in the Legendaries as well. And then there's other ones that are increasing your damage. Others that are slice and dices at when it activates Adrenaline Rush. These are things, again, these are the proc-based things that I prefer to see in classes because it makes it so that you put on the Legendary, all of a sudden you start to get procs of Adrenaline Rush. You have to change your play style, and I do like that quite a bit. Now, the reason I didn't want to put it into A is it is a very unique playstyle, similar to Enhance, I would almost say, where it is a little complex. I don't think it's going to be the easiest thing for people to pick up, but I hope that means that will be rewarded with damage. And we already know its AoE capabilities are pretty strong. Now, we've already reviewed all the rogues, so let's just review the last rogue spec, Sub. Listen, everyone's playing Sub on the beta. And to be honest with you, it seems to be incredibly good, right? It seems to be very powerful. Is it fun to play? I think there is a very high skill cap for Sub. I've always thought that. Blizzard has made it a spec where it literally is now being invited into Mythics because of its AoE abilities, because they added abilities to make it AoE viable. So I do like it. I also think this is a complex spec to play compared to Assassination. One of the reasons I put Assassination in the C tier is because I don't think it's that rewarding of a playstyle compared to the other rogue specs. And so for that, I'm going to put it to here. I'm going to put it below Outlaw, and a lot of people are going to say, dude, you're nuts. I'm going to be honest, that the complexity of this spec is good. It seems like it's satisfying. It's direct damage. You're going to see some numbers, but there is a lot going on. And because of that, I'm bringing it a little bit below Outlaw. Outlaw, I just think, is a little bit more flavorful. This is like, I feel like this is a little bit, I won't say over-engineered, but there is a lot going on for Sub-Rogue. And I feel like that I'm going to bump it down one rung because of that. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. The next one is Ret Paladin. Ret Paladin, I didn't include in my last guide, or my last tier list. I'm so sorry for that. I think that Ret is honestly gonna be, listen, there's some things that are cool about it. I gotta say, there's some things that are cool. Like, there are legendaries that change your Templar Verdict to Final Sentence. We've all seen those videos with people using that, and Ret Paladins are doing 70% of people's health in one button. But this is the beta. This is the PTR. That's going to be fixed. I think once the damage is ratcheted down, there's going to be an issue with Ret Paladins. And I think part of the issue is some of the utility, but also the mobility with it, which has always been there. So I'm actually going to be putting Ret Paladins down here. I think that there were some changes to it, but again, I think that the damage output is 90% Templar's Verdict, which makes you feel like all the other buttons you're pressing are not significant. Now, I did say I'm not doing this based off the numbers, but I'm saying the kind of the distribution of damage, when that is in one ability, it just doesn't feel so great. And the other thing is, like, for example, you might be saying, well, Tiqqle, Enhance isn't mobile either. Well, Enhance has a lot of ranged abilities. Ret's not so much. Rets have a lot of things that, again, focus on your wings. And that's fine, but it doesn't seem to be that rewarding to play as a builder spender other than that. So I'm putting it down. I'm putting it down here, unfortunately. Let's go ahead. We're going to move on to the next one. The next one, if I'm keep going along here, Survival. Survival is a melee. Survival Hunter, I've went through a lot of testing of this, and I have to say, it's pretty cool. I've never really dug into it, but this time we did on the stream, so I want to thank you guys for helping me out, like kind of seeing the nuances. This spec has some complexities this time around, because they're allowing you to use your ranged weapon for some ranged abilities, and then you can switch to melee and be in melee range. And then there's some that allow you to be melee weapon abilities, but be from range, aspect of the Hawk, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, the only question is, honestly, what to do, like, is it going to be that rewarding? I personally think it's not quite. It's almost there, but it's not quite. I think Survival is a pretty cool spec. The way that it works with its focusing on your mongoose bites and to do damage in certain windows actually takes some thought process. Actually, I'm going to bump it up because it really does have the rotation can be kind of rewarding. I just think it's kind of I think it's a little bit niche for people, and I do fear that that's going to probably deter people from playing it, especially with Marksman kind of coming back to where it is. Yeah, it's somewhere between here. It's somewhere between here. I think I haven't seen a single person run Survival on the beta, which is a little sad. A lot of people are going back to Marks because Survival has been like king. Well, actually, no, it hasn't. PM's been king of PvE, but of PvP, it's been so good. But I'm going to put it right about there. Dude, it's tough. I want to add a whole tier here just for this. Oh, man. But it is, I'm going to go ahead and put it here. I'm going to go ahead and put it here because I do think some of its abilities, it's going to be really hard to make the Survival Hunter feel super good. And the Legendaries, to me, there are some cool ones, but I'm not really impressed with any of the Hunter Legendaries, to be honest with you. All right, next up on the list is an Unholy Death Knight. Now, here's the deal. Unholy Death Knight does get Gargoyle baseline, and it does get a lot of things. I gotta say, the Covenant abilities and the Legendaries are looking pretty cool for Unholy. I'm gonna put that right up here next to Frost. I think. Actually, I'm gonna bump it down because I do think there's a lot of things that do have going on, like their A-bomb, like their Gargoyle, like a lot of different abilities. But I don't think that they're that much different, other than some flavorful stuff added. A few flavorful things like you can death coil your pet to heal, you can death coil your pet to heal it. You can pet sack for healing and stuff like that. So other than that, I'll put it here. There are some pretty cool, like Abomination's Limb is probably one of my favorite Covenant abilities, to be honest with you. It's pretty cool. I gotta say, and it does a lot of damage. Now the legendaries, though, legendaries I would say are not quite that impressive. A lot of the things you would think are going to be very similar to BFA, but they're just enabling those things. And so to me, I'm going to place it right here for those reasons, I think. But in general, I think it's going to be a pretty engaging playstyle. Now, Windwalker, I'm going to be putting Windwalker. Some people really like it. They got Zwen back. Listen, it's okay, and there is a legendary that is pretty cool for the playstyle, and there are some conduits that increases damage. I'm going to put it right here with some of the others melees that I think are going to be fine. I just think that there's something a little bit missing, or it's a little too like over the top and you're gonna be pressing a lot of buttons and it's not gonna feel that rewarding. So I'm gonna put it there. I will say that the Covenant ability for Venthyr for Windwalker is pretty freaking cool. And people ask, is Windwalker a pet class now? No, but even then. And if we compare this list to my last tier list that I put up, let's go ahead and see. I did have Outlaw and Enhance in the same tier. I moved Warriors up, and that's mainly because some of the legendaries are just so cool. I had Sub-Rogue in A tier again. I moved up Frosty K because of Blizzard's move to two-handed and kind of giving a nod to that. Feral, Fury, they're all on here. Survival I bumped up from D tier. Unholy is same place in the B tier. Windwalker, I did bump that up a little bit. I do think that they're going to be pretty rewarding to play. More than I originally thought, seeing some more of the Covenants, seeing some more of the Legendaries that are out. I have left in the bottom tier that DH and that Assassination Rogue. And Ret wasn't even included, so there it is. But that being said, guys, that's it for this one. I'm going to cut it off at melee only. We'll see you in the next video. We're going to review range, and then we're going to review healers separately, and I'm going to also do tanks. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to thank all the love, all the support, and I know 85% of you are not subbed to this channel. If you do sub, I will love you, and I'll put your class up at the top part. Okay, and with that being said, guys, we'll see you on the stream 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. This is my feral druid. Meow. Meow. Aww.